Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Yesterday, SEC Supreme Leader and Dictator Kim Jong-Gary went on Fox Business Network and spoke with Liz Clayman, who just nailed him on national television, put him in the hot seat, and you could tell visibly he was very upset with the line of questioning that was occurring at the moment. But she was bringing up an important point. Having to do with distinctions from a legal perspective between cryptocurrencies, what constitutes a security versus a currency. And she even specifically brought up Ripple and XRP and Ethereum and the Ether ICO. And Gary, I'll show you, like, he visibly was not happy with the line of questioning. So there's that, and also, in response to that, later on, Charles Gasparino, also with the Fox Business Network, said that Gary was, quote, divorced from reality, end quote. Well, if that ain't the truest damn thing I've ever heard, then I'll tell you what, and it's certainly true. So I want to share with you an opinion from a number of people, including attorney John Deaton, on this exact topic, and I'll share with you exactly what Gary Gensler had to say. But it's not going to surprise you, and I'll share this at the outset, it's not going to surprise you that he did everything he could to weasel himself out of an actual response that would help participants within the market. I'd like to be clear at the outset also, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And so I'm not going to play the actual video. I try to avoid that on this channel, but I did transcribe what was stated here, which is just as good. And this video clip was shared by John Deaton's organization, Crypto Law. So shout out to John Deaton and Crypto Law. And here's what Fox Business Network's Liz Clayman had to say to Gary Gensler. Then I'll share with you his response. So Liz said the following. What confuses a lot of people, Gary, and if you could clarify here, where do you draw the line? The distinction between what is a security and what is an actual currency. Example A. What Ripple did, selling XRP to build out its underlying blockchain network, no different than example B. Ethereum floating an ICO, a coin offering to help its underlying Ethereum blockchain. There is no difference. A lot of people say none. Now, folks, I got something to say about that, so I'll share my thoughts in just a moment, but first I'm going to share with you what SEC Supreme Leader and Dictator Kim Jong-Gary had to say in response to that, and it was the following. So, Liz, you started by saying you weren't going to ask me about specific cases. I'm not really allowed to talk about specific cases, but it's pretty straightforward. Raise money from the public, as you say. You have a basic bargain of full and fair disclosure and anti-fraud protections, and you register with the government agency called the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that's really what we're trying to do, is help people with that basic bargain. We're technology neutral. If people want to invest or speculate in this field, then these tokens, and most importantly, the platforms, the trading and lending platforms, come in, register, do it within the law, not trying to skirt the law. So a couple of things on this. Technology neutral, my freaking ass. No, you're not. Your organization, even though it wasn't under your leadership at the time, your organization, Kim Jong-Gary, it favored Ethereum and trashed XRP. Technology neutral, my fucking rear side. I'll tell you what, there's no chance in reality that is indeed the case. And then here's another thing that stood out too. Let me tell you this. He said it's important that, these tokens, the tokens come in. And of course, what he means is the people that create the tokens come in and get these things registered, right? If they're going to be sold on open markets. But then he said something which should be raising alarm bells for a lot in the industry, specifically crypto exchanges, because then he said, more importantly, the platforms, the trading and lending platforms. It's important that they come in and register and do it all within the law, not trying to skirt the law. You just wait. Don't be surprised if the SEC comes after a huge cryptocurrency exchange in the United States, or maybe they'll go after a bunch of cryptocurrency exchanges all at once. Don't be surprised if Coinbase, despite trying to be a law-abiding entity operating within the United States, don't be surprised if they come under attack along with a bunch of other shit. Because Gary here, he thinks that everything that exists is a security, and he thinks that he should get to rule over all of it because reasons. And so Crypto Law shared this little video clip here and wrote the following. The peevish look from Gary Gensler is because tens of thousands of retail holders refuse to stop getting in his face with the questions his SEC refuses to answer, and we've only just begun. And then there was also this. This is from attorney John Deaton. Because remember, Gensler, just in that clip, said he's not allowed to talk about these specific cases. Is that true, though? Is that true? Well, take a look at this. Here's what John Deaton had to say about that. Gensler's statement that he can't speak about specific tokens is total nonsense. There is no rule that disallows him from speaking about a specific project, asset, or token. In fact, one of the stated goals of the SEC is to share information about companies so that investors can make informed decisions about their investments. He's being disingenuous when he claims he can't speak about specific tokens. If true, why did Hinman give his Ether speech? Exactly. If you're not allowed to give your personal opinion, why didn't Billy Hinman in June of 2018 get in a bunch of trouble for sharing his personal opinion? What's allegedly his personal opinion, right? Why didn't he get in trouble? In fact, why did you have Jay Clayton highlight that on more than one occasion publicly and point to Hinman's opinion, and he's in air quotes here, as official guidance, right? Why did he do that? So it's complete and utter nonsense. Obvious to me, obvious to you, but can't let this guy get away with it. This guy's just making crap up here. And then on this idea that Ripple selling XRP is the same as an Ethereum ICO, I dispute that. I absolutely dispute that. So I do want to point this out. Ripple is selling an asset they own, XRP. They also buy XRP from time to time. It's all about management of liquidity. But when they're selling the XRP, it's not to build out a decentralized blockchain to get it to a level where it's functional. It's not to build out something that doesn't exist. It's to build out their business model. It is not going to the platform. And so with the Ether ICO, obviously, that money that was collected, it was collected before Ether even existed. It was collected rather to build out that system. With Ripple, that is not the case. Now, there is now happy to acknowledge this too. Yes, there are programmers and coders, cryptographers at Ripple that do a bit here and there to maintain the XRP ledger, but they don't have any special permissions or controls. It's just a little bit here and there. But it wasn't to build out a system. We already had a fully functional XRP ledger, right? And so yes, there's maintenance or this and that, and amendments proposed by Ripple, this, that. That's just a participation within the existing ecosystem, though. That is functionally different, and particularly I think it's important because it comes down to this idea of, is there any sort of centralized control or anything? Well, no, obviously not. Ripple controls something like, 4 or 5% of validator nodes on the entire blockchain? And so it is functionally different from that perspective, and that is a point that was missed by Liz Clayman. So I appreciate her reporting. I'm not trying to be overly critical, but I wanted to make sure that I brought that up because I'm sure there are probably a few others out there that may have thought that along those lines as well. And yeah, it's absolutely a fair thing to bring up there. It is different. And then there was this from my fellow XRP YouTuber Crypto Edit. If you can look at your screen, feel free. So I'm not going to play the audio with this clip. I think it's just going to automatically loop over and over and over again. But it's a video clip. It zoomed in on Gary Gensler when he was being questioned by Liz Clayman about Ripple specifically, and he's like sniffing and he's just engaging in an excessive amount of blinking. And so here's what Crypto Eddie had to say about this: 29 seconds of body language. And then she notes 4 things. Number 1, blink rate tends to increase when people are thinking more or are feeling stressed. Number 2, sniffing indicates displeasure. Yeah, and so he was definitely sniffing, which is why I was saying it's very clear he was not happy with this line of questioning. Number 3, lips pressed tightly together because you are thinking hard or angry. And number 4, tongue over lips, getting ready. And so all excellent points, and in addition to that, he actually was like, you could tell like he was not happy. He was like readjusting his entire body, rocking left to right at one point towards the end of that line of questioning before he spoke. He was not happy with this very clearly. And all we're looking for here is some freaking transparency and regulatory clarity. And there's nothing unreasonable that was posed towards Gary Gensler, but that's still his response. And then there was this from Charles Gasparino. Watched Liz Clayman's interview with Gary Gensler. Interesting how divorced from reality he is. He's worried about unregistered XRP, PFOF, block trading, ESG disclosures, when Fed's money printing created dozens of new asset classes that will blow up on investors if/when Fed tightens. And I wasn't familiar with PFOF, but it stands for Payment for Order Flow. I just personally had never come across this in my entire life that I recall. But if you're wondering what it is the following. This is from Investopedia.com. Payment for order flow is the compensation and benefit a brokerage firm receives for directing orders to different parties for trade execution. The brokerage firm receives a small payment, usually fractions of a penny per share, as compensation for directing the order to a particular market maker. And ESG, I had heard of that before. I can never seem to remember what it stands for, but it's environmental, social, and governance. So that's what he was referencing here. And then there was this. Here we go. Interesting takeaway from Gary Gensler's talk with Liz Clayman on the difference between Ethereum's Ether and what Ripple did with XRP. He wouldn't comment. SEC generally doesn't comment on investigations, which means maybe they are weighing an Ether case, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to bring up, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's internal conversation about that, since there's new leadership at the SEC than there was compared to a few years ago with Jay Clayton and Billy Hinman. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but I will say also, I don't suspect that the fact that Gary Gensler's unwilling to talk about it necessarily is an indication, because he won't talk about anything. He won't even talk about Bitcoin. He was point blank asked about Bitcoin, the original cryptocurrency out there, widely accepted to not be a security. He wouldn't say anything. But if it's so obvious that Bitcoin or XRP or any crypto is or is not a security, why don't you just say it then? If it's so obvious and we should just know it, why don't you just say it? Attorney John Deaton then retweeted that from Charles Gasparino and wrote the following. Think about it for a minute. What's the absolute best play for the Ether Foundation, Vitalik, Lubin, etc.? Cut a deal. It would give Ether certainty moving forward. Gensler is receiving all this pressure related to the free pass. I won't be surprised to hear about a settlement. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to hear about a settlement ultimately either. And then John Deaton also wrote, what does a quick settlement also do? It prevents a lengthy investigation into the disguised whales who participated in the ICO, etc. It also gives Gensler a public win. How quick would the Ether founders pay the $18 million that was claimed to have been raised? I'd be willing to bet pretty gosh darn quickly. Although, who knows, the claims could be much bigger than that, because Ethereum Foundation, for example, at the height of the last market cycle, when Ethereum was around $1,400, and that's roughly what its all-time high was last market cycle, Vitalik convinced the foundation to sell, I believe it was 70,000 ETH. 70,000. So whatever dollar figure that would come out to, throw it on top of the initial 18 million, they could put it all together. So it could end up potentially actually being a lot more than 18 million. Just depends on what the SEC would want to claim. But I don't know. I don't know. It's not going to make them look good, even though the Ethereum free pass speech was allegedly just Bill Hinman's opinion. So many people pointed to it as official guidance, including former SEC chair Jay Clayton, that little asshat. I don't know. Are they going to go after Ether? I don't know. I don't want them to go after anyone else. I'm sick of what the SEC's been doing, but it is what it is, folks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.